Well, hello everybody, and welcome to another edition of Simple Talks from Redgate and SimpleTalk.com. I'm Steve Jones. I'm here by myself today doing an interview, a little coffee chat, though I'm out of coffee. I don't know about John, but I've got John Sterrett here from ProcureSQL. John's been a friend of mine for, wow, a lot of years, John. Like we've known each other a long time, haven't we?
Very long time, yes.
Very long time. And John's one of those interesting people. Like I see him in a different city. Like every time I see him, I think it's a new city because we both end up traveling around a lot and they go into different events. But John, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and how did you get to this point?
Sure. Yeah, so my background is, I was very blessed at a very young age. One of my uncles was very successful in business and bought an Apple II when I was like thinking kindergarten. And first year or so, my parents would say, "You can't touch that unless we're here." And then the year after that, they were asking me questions about everything. So started just loving tech really, really at a young age. And I'm one of the very few people who went to college and took a database class and said, I love this thing.
Wow.
Yes.
See,
So even though I got a degree in computer engineering, I actually took a database class, fell in love, and knew I wanted to work with data.
that's so, I know you're younger than me because I got
Yeah.
an Apple II in high school. So
Yeah. I'm still older than I look.
yeah,
Okay. You can at least give me that one there.
that's true. That's true. But so you did computer engineering in college, then getting into business, right? You worked in data and computing, I assume, right, for a while.
Yeah, started as a developer. I learned performance tuning because I wrote a lot of very bad performing code, and I had to figure out how to make it go faster.
Right. I think many of
So
us do that.
yeah, in college, I worked a lot as a tutor, and I think that's was my precursor to consulting because I just loved helping people, solving problems. And
Oh,
yeah, so from there, started as a developer. They were moving into SharePoint, and I knew I wanted nothing to do with that. And luckily, the DBA at the law firm I was working at moved and said, John should be a good person who could pick up and do the data work. And from there, just went to one of the biggest remote database shops back then in the early 2000s, and built my own company from there. It was started as me, and then just hired a bunch of my friends who I trust and love data as much as I do.
and so over the years, Procure has grown quite a bit because it was just you. And now, how many people now? 12?
Yeah, so we started in 2014, and now we have 9. In fact, we just hired Megan Longoria, I think a month or 2 ago, to kind of add to our growing data analytics services that we're offering as well.
And so that's one of those things I think you and I had chatted before that you've seen this change, right? From a lot of DBA type performance tuning work, and you've kind of evolved with that and you're evolving the company, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think if you and I got paid $1 every time we heard the DBA job is going away, we could probably retire.
Yeah, probably.
But it doesn't go away. I think it always constantly evolves, right? And I think the data people, DBA, data architect, in order to have that position, you have to be a trusted resource. And with that trust, I think you gain opportunities to kind of pivot as the work pivots as well, right? So 20
Right.
years ago, 10 years ago or so, you might run into a DBA who had 10 years of doing backups and restores, and that was it. Where now it's the whole spectrum of, okay, how do you be a database engineer? How are you using GitHub for your source control? How are you actually impacting business by involving all this new tech in there with your data as well? So one thing we've done is we're kind of pivoting ourselves from thinking as we're the DBAs to data architecture as a service, because we want to be the people that can help you with every data need you have, whether it's building Power BI reports, whether it's doing modern data analytics, whether it's doing SQL Server, Postgres, high availability performance tuning. I just surrounded myself around people that love the different areas of data, where I focused always on performance tuning, to be able to do everything a medium, small, or large company might need.
And that's interesting. Like certainly Megan's a great hire there. Like she's a great analytics person. And I know hopefully she'll keep blogging because I haven't seen her blog very much lately. But every time I read something from her, I learn some new thing about this
Mhm.
other area that I like you. I haven't done a lot in my career, right? Um, I do what's necessary. So, are you seeing a lot of people? Is are people just adding more and more requirements to what they're asking, or are they just seeing the value of analytics or these different things? How do you see the world kind of evolving for the data people, right?
No, great question. I think I see the world evolving where we're using AI to allow us to do a lot more and provide a lot more value. So I know a lot of people think, oh, AI is going to come and take away my job, and I'm not going to have anything to do because it'll automatically tune everything. Um, I see AI as a tool. In fact, internally, sometimes we call it the kids because we don't have any junior resources
Right?
at this point in time.
Yeah.
Um, but I think it's a great way to help you do things faster, but you still have to have guardrails on it. You still have to know what it's doing in the tech to make sure it's correct and be able how to take what it gives you and be able to grow off of it to constantly provide more value. But we've seen a lot of customers where they come in with a database pain because that's what we've been known for as of all the way back to 2014 when I started. But we've grown a lot with our customer base to having needs of analytics and actually having abilities to build value to business decision makers to be able to make those decisions quicker and more accurately as well with the data that's provided.
So, all right. So there's a couple things there. Let's start with the AI thing because the AI
Yeah.
is it's on everybody's mind, right? It's fascinating. What do you have examples of some things that have worked well for you for AI, like in terms of helping clients or maybe just helping you guys do better?
Oh, for sure. I think one area I think a lot of people should be using it is helping with the documentation if you can. So
So how do you use that? Like, how do you use it? What's an example of that?
so like an example could be to look at a schema and from that schema go ahead and build all the documentation around it.
Okay, so that assumes though we've named things well, right? Like,
Yep, yep, yeah.
which is always a challenge. But
Yes. Well, and
uh,
part of that too is, through that you could probably learn real quick that things aren't named well, right?
right, yes,
And make changes as well.
yeah. I think that's one of those things that I find AI to be helpful with fairly tedious things, but
Yeah.
kind of narrow in scope, right? Like you're saying, look at all these tables and columns
Yeah.
and try to build a document that says this is what these things do, um, which is a job I would hate, right? Like that job
Mhm.
sucks. But the AI can do a decent job at least fleshing out
Yeah.
a start, right? Or a good template.
Yeah. Well, I mean, think of coming into a new environment where they have, hundreds and hundreds of Power BI reports or
Yeah.
SSRS reports, and they don't know what all they're doing and what impact they have. I mean, that's a great way to kind of, like I said, I wouldn't depend on AI to do everything for you, but it can do quite a bit of heavy lifting if you use it and have good guardrails and security around it.
So how do you get some guardrails? Like, is there something you do for your staff to say this is how we should use it?
Great question. So we have a leader of our AI, Justin Cunningham, who's super, super smart person. A lot of people in the community wouldn't know him because he's more of a family guy and doesn't actually like do a lot of the community speaking that like Megan and I would do.
Right.
But I mean, he's done a lot for setting that up. So, like for example, don't use free AI where the data is then exposed and open to everyone, right?
Yes.
You use AI to where it is secure and kept in your environment as like a basic example. But yeah, Justin's done a lot to give us kind of best practices on what to do there.
Cool. All right. So which AI do you guys use or which LLM?
Um, so Copilot is definitely one that we leverage quite a bit. Um, Me myself for some other operational stuff use Perplexity a little bit for the paid version. That's kind of
Okay.
we have locked in there. But yeah, I think Copilot is what we would typically use quite a bit.
Oh, interesting. Do you know in Copilot are you using the GPT models, the OpenAI stuff, or do you use something else? Or am I getting over your head now?
You're kind of over my head there as the CEO part.
Okay.
Luckily, I don't do as much of the tech building stuff as I used to back in the day.
Right. Yeah. You still do some though, because I've seen you do some performance tuning talks and stuff, right? And
Oh yeah. No,
you know a lot about that. Like you've taught a lot of people that stuff over the years.
oh, for sure. Yeah, my area of focus and where I'm growing, even within the SQL Server area, is security. That's something that I find fascinating, and I'm surprised there's not a lot more of AI stuff out there wrapped around that to do quicker and early detection of certain habits. Um, but I could talk all day about that. That would be well over.
Yeah. Yeah. I think some of that stuff is coming for
Yep.
sure. That security is definitely an area where AI seems to make sense, right? Because
Yep.
I have to look for anomalies. I have to catch things at the same time. All the times that things just work, that is such a tedious job, right? Like uh,
Oh, it's
I think
critical though. It's
yeah, right. Like it's a perfect place. So this might be an interesting example. So John, you travel a lot. I travel a lot. We go to different places. They've moved most, or not most, but at least in the U.S., quite a few of the airport X-ray machines to AI-based these tube things. And I'm sure you've seen them
Mhm.
in Austin, where they're rather than a human staring at what's got to be just a horrific, boring set of things to look at all day long. Right? They have an AI trying to examine those X-ray images and go, "Do we think anything looks weird?" And then call a human over, and that feels like an amazing use of that for security, right?
No, definitely.
And when I think about it, like, not that that's the job any of us would want, but what about looking through all the logs we have of people that have connected to SQL Server and done
Yeah.
stuff, right? Like that's the
Yeah.
same thing that would
Oh
just
yeah. No, it's. I mean, I think going through like SQL audit data would be an amazing, good use case where
yeah,
a lot of early detection of things could be helpful because one, I built an all-day workshop on advanced data protection with SQL Server because how many people are using SQL Audit even to start with? Very few.
very few, very few.
And the ones who do, what are they doing with it? Putting the logs somewhere and ignoring them. The auditor
Yeah,
comes and go open it up. Then,
yeah, yeah. And it's interesting because Redgate is doing some work in that area because and I'm curious from your side, but we are starting to see more and more customers asking for security related things like auditing or
oh,
anomaly detection. And so we're doing work to try to say how could we help you parse those logs and do it. And I'm sure you seeing customers ask for more of that security stuff?
yeah. I mean, that's one of the main reasons for building the workshop is it's definitely coming up a lot more.
Yeah, which is kind of amazing to see, right? Because I think for my whole career, we've talked about security being really important, and then we never do
Yeah.
anything with.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you look at most people and tools, right? They'll look at a point in time, right? I can go see who all has access to every single object at this time I ran the scripts, right? But it's okay, how have they changed from that point on that?
Right.
But
But even looking at that data, like I don't know about you,
oh,
but when you try to look at like the FN my permissions function, or you try to look in Management Studio and you get the grid of what's your assigned, it's a god awful amount of data that just it's hard to consume as a human,
oh
right?
yeah.
And really understand what that means. So it feels like tooling, and maybe AI is the perfect tool for this to try to summarize this down to something that I can consume and say, I think that's okay, or no, that's a problem,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, all right. So you built this big workshop. You've done a lot of speaking. I've seen you at a few SQL Saturdays.
Oh yeah.
Uh, what do you think about the community and SQL Saturdays and how that has maybe changed your career or it has helped others? What do you think?
Wow. As you know, I'm a huge fan of SQL Saturdays. In fact, I could tell you that ProcureSQL would never have existed without them. And
Wow.
yeah, I mean, mainly just like as I mentioned, when I started out as a DBA at the law firm, like they had thousands of databases, and I would say a couple of DBAs, and I was learning a lot on the fly, and being able to do so, I would go to these events and I would just seek out certain people that were knowledgeable in areas that I knew next to nothing about, and asked them a lot of questions. And every single time the people would sit there with me and answer them all, and even answer questions I didn't even think about asking. It's a
Yeah.
great community to that area. And like I said, it's something that I still try to do today whenever I go to those. Is people will have questions, I try to help them out, because gosh, I never would have imagined my career has gotten me to where it is today. But I mean, it wouldn't have been anywhere near there without all the SQL Saturdays. That's the main reason why I still run them in Austin. It's just as hoping that new people come through and it changes their career like it changed mine.
Yeah, and I mean that's a great story. Like I love hearing that. You know, I will say, and I've said it before, but when Andy proposed this to me back in 2006 or seven, I thought it was a dumb idea. Like I was like, this is never going to work, Andy. And he proved me wrong, and it's been amazing since to see them go. I find that we've struggled a bit though over since the pandemic with the SQL Saturday thing. You and I have. So let me back up slightly. So you run the one in Austin because you live there, but you're a big Pittsburgh guy too, and you've really helped those guys move forward. Right, Procure has been a great sponsor for a number of these events. And then
Correct.
I know you and I, for the last 4 or 5 years, have been trying to get one back to West Virginia, and we cannot.
We're trying. I mean, that's where I started my first one with number 36. But
Yeah, but as you've seen these grow and change, right? Think about it; they've helped you. Uh, yeah, and why don't they have the same impact now, or do you think they do still? Why are we struggling a little bit?
well, struggling in which way would be my first question for you?
Well, just
Because are we talking
smaller
attendance?
events, right? And also struggling to get the variety of events. Like there was a point we had 100 a year, basically. Let's call it 90 some cities, right? Because some would do two a year, but uh,
Even in West Virginia?
even in West Virginia. And now we see less people coming. I think I do hear from some people that they feel younger people or maybe newer people to the industry don't see the value in events. As somebody that's been a part of the community for a long time, I'm curious what you think about that.
So I think it's a combination of multiple things. I think there is a group of people since the pandemic that just go to events a lot less, and they think, well, I
Yeah.
could just learn online. But that said, I mean, it's definitely, I think there's a couple different things. I think the sponsors used to drive some people attending. So, like, whenever I sponsor, I always put together a huge email blast towards people around the area of the
Yeah.
event to let them know about it and say, hey, this is a free opportunity that's within everyone's budget to go learn.
Right.
Um, so, I think less sponsors definitely plays a part in it too. Um, And I think the lack of user groups too. Like, so just
Yeah.
hand in hand with SQL Saturdays, I think there's a lot less user groups, and there was a lot more community driven through the user groups to get people there as well.
Yeah. I think the user groups is a problem because do you guys still have a user group in Austin? Is that
No, at this point in time we don't.
uh,
And I think a lot of it is a lot of younger people than I that I talk to are less interested in actually running a user group or having a big part in being part of the admin team. Um,
yeah.
so I think that's a challenge that it's definitely worth exploring. I mean, for me myself, it's a lot easier, and this may seem strange, for me to run a yearly SQL Saturday than to put on monthly user groups in person.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I certainly get it. I also think the online learning, you're right that there's a lot of people that feel that it's easy to do, but I don't feel like I get the same value from online learning and
Oh,
not the same experience. Right. Because
I
you
agree.
guys run a lot of webinars, you touch people virtually and then you do in-person events and they're different, right?
Oh, they're very different. Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest advantage of going to a SQL Saturday is just the networking and being able to talk with people that have similar problems and just even learn how they're solving them differently, whether it's
Yeah.
better or not. Just getting another opinion is something that's very, very helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely, I hope they continue, like I'm constantly pushing and trying to
Yeah.
get people to run some events and see
Well,
the value, right?
yeah, and I think the challenge is I think a lot of people have a misunderstanding of how hard it is to actually run an event like a SQL Saturday. I mean,
Right.
if you can get a venue for free, us, we're very lucky. We have the Microsoft office here. We have Connor, who's in charge of the Austin area, that makes it very easy for us to do a lot of things that, for example, I would assume the Dallas office cannot do.
Right.
But I mean, there's churches, there's community colleges, there's lots of different places where there could be an opportunity for getting a free venue. And if you get the free venue and you can get a couple of people to work with you, it's not that hard. I mean, I spent maybe a couple of hours. I know that we've done this so often that it's pretty much streamlined for us, but it's the planning of it. It's not the hardest part is I think for us is selecting the speakers versus any of the logistics stuff, and that's just because so many people want to speak, and due to
Yeah.
the size of our venue, we can't have that many tracks going on. So it's people I always want to say yes to. I have to say no, which is never fun.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
not that hard. I know I need to blog about it because I mean, even Pittsburgh, like I was just there this weekend. They have an amazing, phenomenal venue that they
Yeah.
have that they get for free, and you just work around the venue. I mean, it was a perfect event. I mean, there were so many opportunities to learn Fabric and Power BI and SQL Server in one place that I think really it's just understanding the value of it. I think a lot of people maybe just don't know about the events, especially with a lot of the user group traction going down.
Yeah. The user group thing is sad. I do think in some sense it takes you a little time in your career to realize that there's more to it than just going to
Yeah.
sit in a room and watching a session, right? Like I think about my early times at conferences where, I would have a notebook because the laptops were too heavy back then. But, I would go from session to session. I would take tons of notes. Maybe I'd ask a question or maybe I would just listen to other questions. But I was just trying to absorb all this learning like it was prepping for an exam in university. And over time, I learned by going to have conversations either with speakers or with other attendees, I got more from the event, right? It made me think differently. It inspired me, or it helped me solve a problem, look at the world in a different way. And I think it's hard to teach people that the value there, right? Because it's not something you can touch, right? It's not easy.
Yeah, I think I was blessed early in my career that I had mentors that made sure that I attended groups, user groups. Like whether it's, I know my very first internship going to a Cold Fusion user group where I got to learn just a little more than I would ever even think about things to ask about. Or same thing when I moved over to Wheeling, West Virginia. My boss was one of the people running the AITP group, which was like a huge user group for all IT. And, just being able to network and hear about people's problems and see that they're not too different from my own, and to hear how people solve them, I think is just extremely valuable. That I think a lot of people just think of the inconvenience of, oh, I gotta leave my house
Yeah,
to the office, or
right.
less time with, family or whatever. It's, planning your career. I think one thing I wish more people would do is actually plan their career instead of relying on their bosses to kind of do it for them.
Right. No, I'm a big fan of that as well. Like I try to get people to make conscious decisions and choose what you want to do in your career, right? And that's one reason I'm always trying to get people to learn more and grow so that you create the opportunities you want as opposed to
Yep.
just falling from job to job. That's whoever gives you the offer, right?
Yep.
So that's interesting. All right. So you were in Pittsburgh this weekend. Learn anything interesting? Like, did you do any sessions?
I did. I did. I went to two sessions and I learned quite a bit in both.
Okay.
So yeah,
Fabric one.
one was Nate, my Nate Laughlin. I'm not sure if you know him. He's a local Pittsburgh person. Has been
Okay.
part of the user group and the area there for a long time. And he had a really good session on how to do SQL audit, like the actual, these are
Oh,
all the things you'd want to think about. Here's how they're using it over at PNC. I mean, it was a really, really good session to see. In fact, I encouraged him and the user group leaders that, hey, he should speak at the user group
yeah,
because I
yeah.
think a lot of people would benefit from that talk. And then
Right.
I went to another one um, by Justin Cunningham where he was going over his automated process of taking your data from landing all the way to gold and how you did that through notebooks, which I thought,
Oh,
yeah,
so are you a notebook fan now, or do you still think
I
SQL or script
no,
book?
I am. I think it kind of depends. Like you're not going to really see the huge value of notebooks unless you have a good chunk of data that you're processing through. But I've always been, as I started out as a programmer, I'm kind of more of someone who likes to work with code versus kind of graphical interfaces.
Right. Yeah, notebooks are an interesting thing. Like when I first saw them, really for Python, right? Kind of the Jupyter days, I thought, "Oh, it's a great way." It's almost like I would structure a program where I run this and I run this and I want to see the results and I run this. Like it's almost like a debugging thing to go through a notebook. Um, but they haven't seemed to take off as much as I would have thought, except for kind of the Fabric, Databricks, maybe Snowflake a little bit space, right? Where they were doing these analytics things.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm still learning a lot from Fabric and a lot of the stuff inside of it myself. But I mean, I was just amazed at, okay, we have this table of contents and it can walk you through like all the little areas individually where you can see the code and notes. And then you can even have it like end and have stuff after it. So if you have like kind of ad hoc stuff that you would do to troubleshoot, you kind of have that there in the table of contents that you can go and reference as well. So it was really cool for me to see firsthand there.
yeah, it's an interesting. So, are you a Fabric fan? Are you?
I definitely say I am.
Yeah,
I went to FabCon and I really love the potential of being able to use the data through all the tools and have the security baked in. I think there's still a long way to go for the whole story to be complete.
yeah,
But I think there's a lot of potential there. But at the same time, too, also kind of a big fan of Databricks. Um, but I think Microsoft has a real good opportunity with some of the real time ingestion stuff that you could do there also, and tying all the applications together with the same data. I think there could be a lot of
yeah.
huge wins there.
I'm sure Connor will be happy to hear that you're sucking up a little bit to him. I'm not a huge Fabric fan because I just it feels incomplete, like so many holes and so many things
Yeah.
that are just they're a
Well,
little right.
I
I
did
hate to
say
say
there's,
broken, but they're a little buggy.
yeah, there's a long ways to go. I mean,
Yeah,
they're not
like the
fully
Databricks
there.
people seem like they've had a big head start, but they are
Yeah.
on the ball and they are really doing a nice job. You know,
Nope, they are. They are. And I think for big enterprise customers that want to churn through tons and tons of data and performance is paramount, I think that's still kind of the place where you're going to go today. But I still think a lot of small, medium sized shops can do amazing things within Fabric.
yeah, and they may be able to, right? Because probably the cost on Fabric to get started is probably lower, right?
Not
Because
only
then
cost, but I'd even say some of the complexity too. It's easier to get started.
okay. All right. Well, interesting. Good to know. Good to know. All right. So, couple other things, we're doing. You're a big sports guy, right? I see you got the Pittsburgh there.
Yep.
You have hope in either because you're Pittsburgh, West Virginia, Austin. Uh,
Always
have
have
an,
hope. I mean,
have
every
an
diehard Pirates fan has hope, Steve.
well, you did better than the Rockies this year, so hopefully.
Yeah.
Did you get to see a game when you went up to Pittsburgh? Is it?
Yeah, no, I took my wife. I mean, it's amazing. She loves people watching, which is why this kind of worked out. But for her birthday, I took her to Pittsburgh, and we had the season opener of the Steelers that we went to.
Oh,
And then they
nice.
had the filming of the Clemente movie that just came out. And then Clemente Day was the next day. So we had
Oh,
3 sports events for her birthday that we all did.
oh, that's
And,
cool.
and she is
Cool.
now a lifetime fan of Hannah the pierogi during the pierogi race.
Okay, good. Those things are always fun to see. All right, so Pittsburgh, you have hope. You think they'll do well. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Maybe I need to place a bet because I come down to Austin periodically, so I can pay you off if I lose.
Always.
Yeah. All right. So the other thing I think we want to talk about a little bit is you travel quite a bit. That's kind of like a hobby of you guys. What's been a cool thing in the last year or two that you've gone and seen or done?
Gone or seen or done. So
Yeah, like
I'd say a couple of things. One, going to the Big Island in Hawaii.
okay,
I went to Honolulu. I'd say a couple years before that, and I really didn't like it. Like I liked the island, but I didn't like the city.
right,
So I kind of, made this plan, with low expectations, and I was just blown away at how different everything is on the Big Island. Like you literally go 1 mile and it feels like you're in a different state from just on how the climate has changed or what you're seeing has changed. I mean, you could go from looking like you're in West Texas with windmills and dirt to being in a rainforest. I
right.
mean, polar opposites, volcano that's active. I didn't know this until I went to, but I guess if you count the elevation from the floor of the earth all the way to the top, they have a mountain there that's the highest because I guess like the beaches are
Yeah,
already like over 10,000 feet above the sea floor by itself.
right.
So I mean,
Okay,
going from like 80 degrees to 30 degrees, like real, just by
that's
driving on
Colorado,
the
but
mountain. I mean, it's insane. So we do a lot of trips like that to see if it's good for the kids, and if it is,
yeah.
we then plan to bring them. So yeah,
Okay,
this summer we'll probably definitely go back and bring them.
okay. So Big Island. What else?
So another thing I like doing, um, we have this tradition where we do what we call date day, where we will actually fly to a different city and be there for around 24 hours. We'll go to a concert, we'll experience local culture, and then we'll come back. So
Okay,
we started this 3 years ago when I got married. And I just surprised her. My wife's a huge Beyonce fan. So we went to Toronto, literally woke up early in the morning, drove her to Niagara Falls. She's never been there.
right.
Saw all that, went to the restaurant that's up high spinning. And then at night, surprised her taking her to the Beyonce concert. And so
Oh,
we've switched that to where the next year we went to Atlanta, and then just a couple months ago we flew into New Orleans for a concert in Baton Rouge, and then hanged out in New Orleans for the day, and then flew back. So that's kind of a fun thing that we're doing as well.
that is fun. I mean, I do a lot of cities for 24 or 48 hours.
Yeah, but it's
I was,
a little
I was
different.
just in Alabama,
I used
Birmingham
to
for
too.
24 hours.
Yeah, but if you would ask my wife, she would say Seattle. Um,
Seattle. Seattle's a
yeah,
cool city.
it is. And every time I've been there, like you, it's always kind of been for work, do the conference, get out. When I brought her to pass that first year it came back, um, we were there a whole, like, I think 4 days extra, and we did all the tourist things that I've never done any of it, which was a lot of
Oh,
fun.
yeah. I've done that with my kids, actually. Like, I've taken a kid to Seattle and spent 3 or 4 days with them and then gone to the conference and sent the kid home. But we actually, a few years ago, my wife came up and we stayed extra a couple days and went to the little island just west of Seattle. Oh, it's killing me now. But the ferry just across to it's not Bellingham, it's a different island, but right there, and just it must be, well, I don't know, 100 acres. Like, it's really not that big. Just hiked around and just chilled out on the island for a weekend, which was really nice. So that's good to hear. I'll have to try the Big Island. I've never been there. I've been to Hawaii, but never to the Big Island. So we'll do that. All right. Last thing. So you and I have been in tech a long time. We worked hard, right? I'm
Hmm.
sure you've had 15-hour days or more, 100-hour weeks. That's tough on you, right? Health wise and everything else. But it's also tough on a relationship, right? You got married here recently, and you've been a part of this um, tech and divorce thing, right? So tell me a little bit about this, because I'll include the link for this in the show notes and stuff. But tell us a little bit about this.
Yeah, sure. So it's crazy. I know I love talking about tech, but I guess one thing I learned through my own personal experiences of going through a divorce is it is amazing, or not, I have probably wrong word there, but shocking to know how many people in our space have gone through a divorce. It's something I never even thought about thinking about or asking about until I was personally going through it. Um, and as you mentioned, a lot of different reasons, right?
Yeah.
Constant working, constant traveling, prioritizing the wrong things, whatever it may be, whether it, like for me, people always ask, what were you addicted to? I said, work. Like
Yeah.
I constantly traveling for work, constantly working. But I don't think there's many resources out there to really help people when they notice, things aren't going that well with their marriage. And
Yeah.
so as I went through this process, I actually had some friends that were in a church that do this wonderful week-long marriage counseling where no matter what stage, like if you're, oh my gosh, I'm already talking about divorce, or I'm starting to think this isn't working, or anywhere in between that, they will take you for a week with a bunch of licensed therapists they have this amazing house in Atlanta that they will just take you and try to help rebuild and fix your marriage. And I always kind of thought, if data people knew about this when they were going through this, would it be very helpful for them? I just think about myself that, if it existed at the time when I went through my divorce, that it's something that potentially could have definitely helped. So as part of that, one of the things I try to do is I have this promotion that we're doing right now for any of our data services. If you were to sign up this year, we'll actually donate some money to help them sponsor people. So that's kind of a big thing they've been
Okay.
doing this year. Is a lot of the people that have been going to the retreats have had full or partial sponsorships to help make that happen.
Right.
So yeah, I think my goal definitely with that is just, hey, I've been through this. Nowhere near alone. There are so many. I'm not going to call any names out, but it's just shocking to me how many people I met when I started being open and talking about it that were either going through or have been through a divorce in our data space. So
Uh,
something just passionate about right now. And just like I said, if there's any way, I can help. I mean, I'm definitely a believer, and I think God's calling me to try to help in this way. So yeah, like I would say, if you can, definitely it's go.procure/marriage. And the group we're working with is Marriage Masterpiece. So just marriagemasterpiece.com as well.
okay.
And like I said, if anybody needs that help, I mean, if you message me directly, could connect you with them, but you don't even need to just directly go to them. And like I said, it's a very helpful tool. Like I said, I wish we had more of those type of things within our data community.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like we've got some common friends that have been through divorces, and it's devastating, right? Like it's
Yeah.
just a hard thing, and sometimes it's the best thing, but sometimes with a little work, maybe you could have fixed it. And I do think that a good relationship takes work. Like I've been married,
Oh,
well now 27 years, and it's it's work, right? It's not always easy, and I think it is one of those things we don't talk about. Like we're quick to abuse ourselves with work or let ourselves be abused,
yeah.
right? How many people let their boss make them work till 10 p.m., go on call all weekend, do deployments, and Saturday, Sunday. And it's easy to forget that you have a life outside of work, right? Uh, and you got to keep that in mind. I guess the other thing, John, I always think about too is that we should, work to live, not live to work, right? Because,
Oh, yeah.
uh, right, how many people? Hopefully, you haven't had as many as I have, but just had people I've known in their 40s and 50s that have died, and it, right,
Yeah.
it's shocking. You never know how long you have, and so I'm all for hard work. Like I am, put your head down and grind, but you got to remember there's more to life too.
Yeah, I think in general, regardless of whatever you're focusing on, life is not static. You're either working towards something or working away from it. And I think it's just refocusing and focus on prioritizing the right things, the things that are important, right? Work is important, but as a business owner, I tell all my employees it's not the most important. Like there's a
Right.
lot more important things than
Yeah.
work.
My wife always says, we're not saving babies, and we're not, right? I mean, some people are, but we're not, so I'm glad you're doing it. Like, that's a great thing. I think if you can repair relationships, it's always a good thing. I recently was talking with Bob Ward, and he and his wife do pre-marriage counseling for similar reasons, to just try to just get people prepared, right? Because
Yep.
nobody teaches us how to be married. Nobody teaches us how to be a parent. And we all get a little piece of advice, but really we're stumbling through it. And, I think about, for us as data people, like, how often do you go, man, if I'd have known this 6 months or a year ago, I would have done something completely different, right? At work, but the
Mhm.
same thing in the rest of your life too.
Oh, for sure.
Sure. All right. So, Procure SQL, you guys are doing all kinds of stuff. Anything in the data space, right? Somebody can contact you.
Yep. Yep. Definitely. Yeah.
All right.
Whether
And then,
you need database help, analytics, data integration,
all right.
application building, all of it.
So we'll drop a link in the show notes for that. So if you want to get a hold of John or Procure SQL, feel free. And then, where can people see you? Because I know you're out there speaking. You just did Pittsburgh. What else is coming up?
So I got the Pittsburgh SQL user group actually on Monday. So
That'll
that's the
be
next. That's the next
that'll
one
be
on my.
fast.
Yeah. That's true. That'll be passed. November-ish. There's SQL Saturday Houston.
Okay.
And then, like I said, hopefully I'll be around FabCon and Past Summit as well.
Okay. All right. Good. And then hopefully next year we'll have Austin SQL Saturday and more events as well. So fantastic.
Yes. You can count me in for hopefully sometime in February.
Excellent. Excellent. I will tell Connor to get prepared.
There you go.
All right. Well, John, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure talking to you as always. And, everybody, hopefully you've enjoyed this. Please feel free to reach out to John and myself, and we'll have some of the links in the show notes, certainly, for tech stuff, but also for the marriage stuff. If you know somebody, please reach out, help people, like, make the world better if you have a chance. I try to do that. John's trying to do that. The more people do that, the better it is for all of us. So hopefully you've enjoyed this, and we'll see you soon.